Beach anklets are made for hot summer days and that carefree lifestyle of summer. Hi, my name's Carol. Welcome to my channel. It's lovely to have you here. So today I'm going to make this beach anklet, and I'm calling it a beach anklet because it has this beautiful starfish charm, and it's got some shell charms here as well. And also it has these beautiful blue beads, these blue glass bicones, and the watery colour, you know, it just reminds me of summer. So I decided that I would make an anklet out of these. So let's get started. To make this anklet, you're going to need some seed beads. Now I've got two different types of seed beads here. I have some silver-lined clear seed beads, and these ones, as I said, are clear. The silver is in the center, and the silver kind of shines through the clear bead, and they look wonderful. And so you'll need about 24 of those. I've also got some white Ceylon seed beads here, which also add a little bit of sparkle, and you'll need 40 of those. You'll need 29 of these 3mm glass bicones, and these are this beautiful watery blue colour. You'll need 6 of these 8x5mm shell beads, and these are a rice shape. You'll need 32 of these grey 4mm pearls. You'll need 6 of these 4.5mm, little star bead. You'll need 6 of these 6mm beaded rondelles, a hook and eye clasp, and your charms. I've got here a starfish charm and 2 shell charms. I've also got 5 of these 6mm jump rings. I've got 4 crimp beads, and I've got about 60 centimeters of tiger tail. As far as tools are concerned, you'll need some flush cutters, and I always use 2 pairs of chain nose pliers. Now you don't actually need two pairs if you don't have them. I just like to use them because I like to save my fingernails. When I'm opening jump rings, I prefer to use 2 pairs. Alright, so I'm just going to move my seed beads out of the way and pop on my glasses so I can see. Move that out of the way too, I'm not using that just yet. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to attach to each of my charms a little jump ring so that I can then thread it onto the tiger tail, and it'll sit the right way. So if I show you this here, so what you're getting here is the charm. If I just threaded the charm on, it would actually sit sideways. So the jump ring being added between these 2 beaded rondelles just makes it sit flat around your ankle. Alright, so I'm going to take my pliers, and my jump ring is already open, which is useful, and I'm just going to take my charm, thread it on, and now I'm going to take my other pair of pliers and close the jump ring. Now if you haven't closed and opened jump rings before, what you do is you hold it on either side with your pliers and you move up and down. So if your jump ring's open like this, you move down. Now what will happen is when it's fully closed, you can actually feel it rub against the other side. If it's not closing, what you do is you wiggle up and down and push in a bit with your pliers, and you'll eventually feel it close. So I'm just going to show you this one. You need this to be really well closed because with the tiger tail you don't want it to slide out of the gap. Whoops, where's the opening gone? Mine's so well closed you can hardly see it. So that's what I'm looking for. And I'm going to do the same thing with my shells. So just taking my jump ring, popping on the shell and just closing it up like that. And once again, I'm just going to give it a wiggle and a push to make sure that it's well closed. And sometimes you just need to give it a little bit of a squeeze this way as well, just to make sure it's nice and flat. Great, and one more. Just popping that one on. Oops, maybe it's not quite open far enough, or maybe my pliers were just in the way. There we go. And just closing it. If you want an in-depth discussion or example of how to open and close a jump ring, I will leave a card up here so that you can see link to the video where I show you exactly how to do that. Mine has a tiny wee gap, so I'm just going to give it a little bit better close. There we go. Cool. All right, so there's my 3 little charms with their jump rings all ready to be threaded on. Okay, so I'm just going to lay this bracelet out because that way I can see the order that I actually strung it the first time. And so the bracelet, it actually lies on your ankle with this charm, this piece with the charms on at the bottom and this one at the top. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I've got a piece of tiger tail and I'm just going to cut it in half because I need 2 pieces and half each. There we go. Just putting the other piece aside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a crimp bead on one end and I'm going to attach one of my jump rings to it. So before I do that, I need to close up my jump ring. So I'm doing it exactly the same way as I did when I had the charm on, just holding it on either side and wiggling until I feel it rub against the other side. And just giving it a good check to make sure that it's well closed. All right. And I may as well do the other one while I'm here. Then we're all ready for the other end. And sometimes when you get to the other end, your hands are busy and the last thing you want to do is put everything down and close a jump ring. So I'll just make sure that one's nice and closed as well. And just give it a double check. Right, I'll put that one aside. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put on a little crimp bead here. Now with crimp beads, they're so tiny that it's often a really good idea to leave them down on your mat here and just thread your tiger tail through rather than trying to do this. And then I'm going to put on my jump ring and then I'm looping it back and back through the crimp bead. Just might give myself a little bit more space there. All right. Now when you're crimping a necklace or a bracelet, or an anklet in this case, you need to make sure that you leave a little bit of space here. You don't want the crimp so hard up against the jump ring that it can't move, the jump ring can't move. So I've got a little bit of space there, so I'm going to grab my pliers and I'm going to give my crimp a squeeze. Nice hard squeeze. So that's what I have now. Okay, now I'm going to start threading my beads on. And if I have a look at my example here, my first one I made, I'm going to start with a little silver star. And then I'm going to put on a bicone. And now for this one, I'm going to be using the silver lined seed beads. So I'm just going to tip some of those out. And I might move my crimp beads just out of the way, but I don't want to confuse them. And I'm just going to pick one up and notice that I'm doing the same thing as I did with my crimp beads. I'm actually leaving them down on the mat and just popping them on the end of the wire like that. So now another bicone. I've actually got a bit of a burr on my end of my tiger tail, so I might just trim the end off. There we go. That's better. And now another of the silver lined seed beads and one more bicone. Okay, now what I'm going to do here, you'll notice that I left the tail So I'm actually going to thread the tail through all of those little beads. Sometimes that can be a wee bit challenging. But it should go through. These bicones have quite small holes, so it's just having a little bit of a challenge. Okay, so now I've got my first 3 on, and I'm going to put on another star. Next, I'm going to go with a bicone and just repeat that with the silver, bicone, silver, and bicone. Okay, so that's what I have now. And now I'm ready to put my first shell on. Actually, I might move those grey ones out of the way for a minute. So I'm not using those for this piece of stringing, so it makes life easier if they're out of the way. Okay, now to do the shell, I've got a shell bead that's going on first. And now I'm going to put a beaded rondelle. And I'm going to put on one of my little shell charms. Just threading it on. Another beaded rondelle. And another of my little shell beads. So that's what that looks like now. Okay. Now I'm just going to repeat that same pattern that I used up here with the 3 bicones, the star, and the 3 bicones with the little seed beads in between. Okay, that's what I have now. And one thing to note about this pattern is that there's only 2 seed beads between the 3 bicones. You don't put a seed bead between the bicone and the star. Alright, so now we're up to this part with the shell, the starfish. So we're going to put a shell bead on next. A beaded rondelle, just like we did with the other side, when we put the shell on. And we're going to put our starfish on. Now, one thing to note is that you want to make sure that your starfish and your shell are hanging the right way, because you don't want it to hang that way. You want it to hang so that it's on the outside. Okay, so we've got our shell bead, our beaded rondelle, our charm, another beaded rondelle, and another shell bead. And basically all I'm going to do now is repeat this on the other side. Alright, so now I have everything threaded on there. Just going to double check that it's all the same, so I can do that by just folding it in half and just kind of squeezing it so that you can check whether your beads are all in the same place. Mine look like they're all right. So now what's left to do is to put on my crimp bead and my jump ring. So I'm going to pick up my crimp bead, thread it on, thread the jump ring on, whoops, and then come back over, so back over the jump ring and back down through the crimp bead, like that. And I'm just going to thread back down through several of those beads, just like I did on the other side. Can be a little tricky sometimes to get them through, so just give it a bit of a wiggle. I'm having trouble grabbing that, so I'm just going to get my pliers and give it a pull. There we go. Pliers come in handy for all sorts of good things. Okay, now I'm going to put it through a couple more. Just doesn't want to move today. Okay, we'll do this. I'm just going to pull it now. Now you'll notice that I've got a space there, and obviously I don't want a space. So if I just pull my jump ring, sometimes I can get that and pull on the end with the pliers. Sometimes I can get that to work. Now I've got too much space at this end, so I'm going to just hold my beads there and just give it a bit more of a pull. And just kind of wiggle and pull until I get it closed up. Still got a little bit too much space. All right, maybe a little bit more. There we go. I'm just going to move my crimp bead up a little bit. Hope you can see that. Hiding in there, it's kind of going down between the points of the stars. So I'm just going to give it a squeeze. That's what I have. And now I'm just going to trim off this end with my flush cutters. Okay. Whoops. Flicked my seed beads everywhere. It's not good. Alright, now you could actually stop at this point if you wanted to and just have a single brace anklet. That would be fine. And if you wanted to do that, it's just a matter of attaching your clasp, which I will show you shortly. But I'm going to make the second row of mine, so I'm actually going to just move some stuff out of the way. Move these beads out of the way that I don't need anymore. Pick up my seed beads, not my crimp beads. It's quite good to have your little seed beads in a little dish. So they do tend to fly everywhere. Oops, there goes that one. Alright, now next I'm going to make this part. Now this one requires some counting. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is, obviously I'm going to attach this to my other piece. Now, I could do that, or I could just pretend I've got a jump ring there and attach it later, which I think is what I'm going to do. So let me explain. The first thing I'm going to do is take my tiger tail and I'm going to thread on my crimp bead. Okay, now I'm going to thread it back down through the crimp bead, and I'm going to pull the crimp bead up very carefully to about where I would normally have it if I was putting a jump ring in. So just like that. Now I'm going to crimp it. So that's what I have. So I've actually kind of tricked it that I've got a jump ring in there, and we'll put the jump ring in there shortly. So I'm going to start with a little star bead. You'll see here that I have a little star on the end there. So I started and finished each of my pieces with the star. Oh, this one's got a little burr on it too, so I'm going to give it a cut, if you can see that there. So just cutting off the end, it just makes it easier for you to thread the beads on. Okay. Now when I get to the other end, my bead to the other end, I'm going to thread it through both pieces of the tiger tail through like that. Alright, and then what I have next is one of my white seed beads, so I'm just going to tip some of these out. and I'm going to pick up a white seed bead and a grey bead. Now I know that these grey beads can be a little challenging to actually get onto the tiger tail. They've got quite small holes, but I am going to thread both of those pieces through at that end. Now I need another seed bead and another one of these, one more seed bead, one more glass bead, glass pearl, and finally one more seed bead. Now I'm just going to make sure that it goes, that double end of tiger tail, that short end, goes through all of those beads. And as I said, these glass pearls do not like it very much, so it's a matter of just kind of pushing them through individually. Okay. Oh, look what I've done. Can you see there? I missed the first seed bead, so I have to go back and take them all off and start again. Something to watch. Trick for young players. There we go. Don't know that I'm a young player. Okay, so that's what I have now. And yes, my tiger tail is through, both strands are through all my beads. So you can see here I've got 1, 2, 3 of these, and then I've got one of my lovely little blue bicones. So I'm going to take one of those and pop it on there. And a white seed bead, and just alternate for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you need to alternate until you have 9 of the grey pearls. Okay, so this is what I have now, and I'm just going to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just as well I double checked. Okay, so notice that I started that run with a white seed bead and I finished with the white seed bead. So that's this piece here. Then I'm going to put on another bicone. Now in the next run I actually have 4 of my grey beads, so starting with a white seed bead and ending with a white seed bead, so I'm going to put on the 4 now. Okay, so that's what I have now. And now I'm actually, oops, we'll move that out of the way. So that is the center. This bicone is actually the center, so I'll pop that one on. So there we go, that's the actual center of the bracelet, anklet. And now I'm just going to repeat that for the other side. So you can see here I'm just checking to see that I have all the beads on correctly, which I do. And now I'm just going to pop on my last silver star. And then my crimp bead. Now this time I am actually going to attach it to the jump ring. And I want to make sure that I attach it on the right side so that it sits on the top. So there's my anklet, and this is the bottom of my anklet. So I'm just going to pop it on this side. Right, so there's my little crimp bead there, my jump ring. Just go back through, down through the crimp bead, just like we did before. Thread it down through some of the beads, which is sometimes, as I said, a little bit of a challenge. Some of these glass pearls have such tiny holes. Now the reason I put it through, back down through the beads at the other, after I put it through the crimp bead, is just for a little bit of added security. All right, there we go. Now I'm just going to crimp my bead there. Oops, so there it is. Hope you can see that. I'm just going to give it a squeeze. Once again, it's kind of tucked itself in by the star, which is good. It will hide in there. And that's what I have. So I'm just going to trim off that tail. A snip, hopefully. And now, so all I have to do now is attach it to this one, this jump ring, and I also obviously need to attach it to attach my clasp. So I'm going to do that by opening up my jump ring. Now I know I made great pains to close it, but it's good that it was closed really well while I was threading. So I'm going to take my other pair of pliers, and to open it I'm just going to hold it on either side like that, and I'm going to twist one up and one down. Then I'm going to thread on my little string, and just make sure that it's going to be on the right side. So you want it on the top, and then I'm going to attach my one end, the hook end, sorry, the eye end of my clasp. Doesn't matter whichever way you go. Then I'm going to grab my jump ring on the side again and just close it, and giving it a wiggle, pushing it in until it's closed properly, really, really well. Okay, that's what that looks like now. And then I just need to repeat that on the other side to attach the other end of my clasp. All right, so holding it once again on either side and just giving a twist up and down. One hand goes down, one hand goes up. Popping on my clasp, grabbing it on the other side again, and the opposite basically, so the hand that went down before now goes up, and vice versa, and just making sure that it's really well closed. All right, now you could, if you wanted to, add a crimp cover to this. I think it would be a little challenging to get the crimp cover to cover both of those pieces of tiger tail and the crimp beads. I personally don't mind it. It doesn't look, I don't think it looks bad at all, so I'm happy with it being just like that. Alrighty. So there it is. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you've really enjoyed making this little anklet with me, and I hope you make one. It would be really great to know if you did. Leave me a comment in the comments section below and let me know if you've made one. Also, I've left all of the materials that you need in the description box below, so with links, so you'll be able to find everything that you need. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, and of course like the video and ring the bell so that you'll be advised every time I upload new projects, which is usually about once a week. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.